Hi everyone, welcome to the newest installment of the Comic Book Club. I am Sid Part 2, and today we'll be talking about Green Lantern Earth 1. Joining me today, we have Dr. Holocron.
Stop. Hammer time. That's the best I got.
Nice. I've got my audio running in the back thing, so I didn't hear any of that. We have Red Leader Antilles.
And I came back with a Green Lantern shirt, which no one understands unless they were here previously.
Yes. Way to join the conversation early.
We
have Robert Emmett.
It ain't easy being green.
And we have Stuart, aka Shadow of Batman.
Hi everyone.
Yay. And I can't tell, is Jake Carlson here? Jake, are you there? Are you present? No, Jake's trying to join, I think. He's probably
he tweeted on Facebook right now that he's trying to join.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens with that. All right, everyone. So this week on the Comic Book Club, we are discussing Green Lantern Earth 1, which is, of course, the newest installment in the Earth 1 line. And I think a great place to start by talking about this is, who here's read all of the Earth 1 books?
I've read all of them except for Teen Titans.
Same.
So
Yeah. I still have the same reaction with Teen Titans Earth 1. Oh yeah, that's a thing. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just, it exists. And
I love Jeff Lemire, I just don't give a shit about that book.
Yeah.
See,
so it was so weird to put that out before you got to stuff like Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman, or like a Justice League Earth 1 book. I don't know. Just throwing out genius ideas.
I like Jeff Lemire. I like Teen Titans, and I don't care about that book.
Yeah.
Because it's got none of my favorite Titans.
Yeah, so this is now a discussion on Teen Titans Earth 1, apparently.
But it does make sense, because this was really the logical choice that should have happened in, 2014 when that came out.
Yeah.
But instead we had that long-ass gap, and then we're getting Aquaman, we're getting Flash, but this comes out of nowhere. And I'm glad we finally have something. It's just Earth 1 hasn't been managed well. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for this episode, I put all Earth 1 titles, and I was curious to see what went out. Wonder Woman was hanging in there for a minute, but of course we have, it looks like all men here, so here we are. Anyway, so Green Lantern Earth 1, I'm really happy that this came out, and I'll start out and say I really do like this book, but I just, as a Green Lantern fan, it is a shame that there's not a ton of great standalone Green Lantern stuff outside of like Tales from the Corps. So to have just a standalone Green Lantern graphic novel, yay, that's a good feeling. That's a really, really good feeling. But what did you guys think about it? Why don't you start us off, Dr. Holocron?
My opening statement for how I felt about this book, and this is actually kind of relevant since Deadpool 2 just came out. For me, this is what the Green Lantern movie should have been. Like, I think this is, like, so much of this book, and I've had this with the other Earth 1 books too, a lot of this really feels like a movie. Like, it's paced like a movie. It has a very clear 3-act structure. It's very cinematic, especially in the way it's drawn. The artwork in this is freaking gorgeous. There are so many like full-page spreads and 2-page spreads that look like they could be taken right off from like a movie screen. Like stuff like this is just like gorgeous looking. I'm a casual Green Lantern fan at best. I like a lot of things about Green Lantern, but I've never been huge into it. I think as someone who isn't huge into it, I think this is a good jumping on point for people to start getting into Green Lantern. There's a lot of good character stuff with Hal and Kilowog, and I think it does a good job of introducing the concept of the Green Lanterns without being too exposition heavy. And I just think it's really tight and well-paced, and I really enjoyed it. Also, there are a few potential parallels you could draw between this and Star Wars. The place where the Green Lanterns are in this book kind of reminds me of where the Jedi are at the beginning of episode 4 a little bit. And there could be possible parallels between that and Star Wars, which I am all for because I love Star Wars. It's in my name. But yeah, I really like this book overall.
Nice. All right, how about you, Red? What do you think?
Well, to bounce off of what Doc was saying, this kind of combines like my favorite era with Star Wars, which is Dark Times, and one of my favorite TNG episodes, which is Yesterday's Enterprise. And it's just fucking amazing. Because it's like the last of the Jedi novels, which I grew up on, fucked Yesterday's Enterprise and created something beautiful. Where like it's that dark era that you get with Yesterday's Enterprise, with the future where everything's shittier and darker, but you still have that core sense of optimism. It's not something like Watchmen that is a dark universe at the end of the day. Like they're in a dark galaxy, but the core of what the Green Lanterns are and the core of who Hal Jordan is carries over. Like how in Yesterday's Enterprise, even a war-torn Federation still has some of those ideals. Picard won't send people to their deaths needlessly. He's still a moral person. And you get that here, and it's so unabashedly heroic. And I love it so much for that. Especially with some of my reservations with Superman Earth 1, where I get why people like that, but like I feel like this is that idea done better, of a more relatable version of that character.
Okay. All right. How about you, Robert Emmett? What do you think of this?
I think this is. I've only read the Batman year one, Batman Earth ones, and the Wonder Woman year one. So I've not got as much experience in this lineup as possible, as the rest of you. But just after my second read through, which was today, yeah, I think this is my favorite of the line. I think Wonder Woman's technically a better. Wonder Woman, I think, is technically better, but this one is just so to my storytelling sensibilities that it's just, I can't help but give it just the slightest edge over on Wonder Woman. I really enjoy this. I think the art in this is probably the best drawn, I think, of all the Earth 1 books that I've read. And even just looking at the art for some of the other ones, I think it's the best drawn. The concept of, it's such a simple concept of, hey, Hal Jordan, test pilot, why don't we just make him an astronaut instead?
Yeah.
Like, that makes everything make just the slightest bit more sense. And astronaut is just way cooler inherently than test pilot. Test pilot's a cool job. Astronaut is cooler.
It's funny that they make astronaut mundane in this.
Yeah, and I like that. It's very Ridley Scott, aliens and stuff. It's good Ridley Scott. This is the Green Lantern movie Ridley Scott would have made on a good day. You know, I loved it. I think it's great. Few hiccups here and there that I'm not too sure about. Just with more so in regards to the mythology of the Green Lanterns as it relates to the original stuff, but that's not so much a problem since it's intended to be a departure, so much as it is a personal taste thing. But overall, a really good book, really strong.
Okay, let's go ahead and hear Stuart's thoughts. What do you think of this, Stuart?
Well, I want to start with the fact that I think that every Earth 1 book, well, the Titans, like we just established this, I never read Teen Titans. One book has a strength. I think Superman has the best story of the 3 volumes that we got. I think Batman has the best world building, and I think Wonder Woman has the best ideas. And I think this one has things together. I think this has a lot of cool ideas in there. I think this has a really, as for a volume 1, it has a pretty put together story, but it has a lot of setup to it that gets you excited for the next 2 volumes. That I'm assuming there's going to be 2 more volumes.
Hopefully.
And I think there's some cool world building that we got from this book. And kind of building off what some of you guys said, there's a lot of, even though I'm not a Star Wars fan, I know sacrilege, but there's Star Wars, there is some parallels to Alien. There's even, it's almost like a very Days of Future. It's almost like putting Days of Future Past kind of storyline as an origin story for Hal Jordan, which is weird. It's like you're making the last Green Lantern story the origin story for Hal Jordan. I don't think you can get away with that. Not a lot of superheroes can get away with that. And I think Hal is a well done character, and I think this is very much the New Frontier version, where he was a kid that wanted to go to the stars, but his dream got perverted by I think the corporation is Arrowhead. I think.
Is it Ferris that is in charge? Oh no, sorry, it was that he was working with NASA.
Yeah, it
But
was.
I think
NASA became Arrowhead.
that's what it's called. Yeah,
It was NASA.
Okay, I'm right.
He was working with NASA, and then they were taken over by like a private space exploration company called Monarcha, and the project was Arrowhead. It was meant to be. It's basically Reagan's Star Wars, orbital defense platform and stuff. So the project was Arrowhead. I wonder if that's a reference to something.
Okay.
Also,
Probably
correct me if
reference.
I'm wrong, but is that supposed to be Amanda Waller at the end?
No,
That's the character at the beginning.
Yeah, she's Captain
Yeah.
Stadler.
I was
That's
just
the
wondering because they call her Amy, and I don't know if that was like a reference or anything.
Oh, yeah.
Could be. I'm
Sorry,
very
Steven.
casual Green Lantern fan as well, so I don't know if that is anyone. Ian would know if anyone.
I mean, I don't know a ton about Hal Jordan's human companions that he's had over the years, because like it's one of those things where there's the really racist like Asian sidekick he had, Typeface. Like just like the cringe on it, right? Like that was a thing for a while, and then the Carol Ferris was a thing for a while, and just Kyle had one too. It was like a gay teenager. It's just like they've always tried to give the Green Lanterns like a human sidekick to keep them grounded. So I don't know if it's supposed to be a reference or if she's just an original character.
That's also something I'm kind of excited for to see is since this is a husband, we can see on Carol. Because I'm kind of interested to see what they can do, because I like what Johns did with Hal and Carol, but also Carol has a lot of history that she's basically prior to Jeff Johns, she's pretty much Mary Jane in the Spider-Man movies. Like nothing pleases her. So it'd be interesting to see an actual husband and wife team tackle a superhero couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised. Do we actually see Carol Ferris in this?
No,
No,
they just say Ferris.
Intercom stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. It might be kind of like what they did with Batman Earth One, where I don't know. I don't remember. Did they introduce? I forget Harvey's sister's name.
Jessica.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they kind of were implying that they kind of introduced her as kind of a love interest in the second Batman Earth One book, but then that gets thrown out the window by the end of that. But there are some interesting parallels between this and the other Earth One books, and like how the books kind of influence each other, even if unintentionally.
Yeah. And that's actually something that's worth talking about with Earth One, since this is such a departure from the traditional Green Lantern story. And I do feel in a good way. It has me left with kind of a head-scratching thing, because I don't know who Earth One is for anymore. I really don't know who Earth One is for, because Grant Morrison did a departure, Teen Titans did a departure, only Superman and Batman are like consistent with the normal Earth One, but that goes out the window by the time you get to volume 2 of Batman and volume 3 of Superman. So even though I like this isn't Hal Jordan's story, like his traditional story. And so I enjoyed this as a reader, as like a fresh, cool take on Green Lantern. But like, I'm left here like, new readers. Okay, say a Green Lantern movie comes out, and you get really excited and you want to read comics, so you go to the comic shop and you pick up Green Lantern Earth One Volume 1.
Hi, Tari.
Hi, Tari. Or is it Terry?
Tari.
Tari? Okay.
Yeah, Harry, like Harry.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Cool.
I'm late.
Welcome to the show. You're late to the club meeting. For
Yeah,
shame. Anyway.
Can I just ask Terry, what is always a good idea?
What is always a
behind
good
you.
idea?
Yeah, what's always a
uh,
good idea? What's the rest of the
oh.
poster behind you?
I don't know. It's at my old university.
It's Tari. Tari's always a good idea.
Oh well,
Yeah,
obviously.
I guess so. Yeah. Well, reading Green Lantern.
Yeah, reading Green Lantern's always a good idea. Well, no, not necessarily. There's some bad Green Lantern out there. But anyway, like the Earth One line though, like, you know, say you watch the movie, you go out to the store and you read this, and like, would a new reader even like this?
I think it's pretty accessible in terms of mainstream comics. But I mean, obviously, not everyone's as into sci-fi as we are. But you know, what can you do about that?
All right, so we went round robin earlier, Tari, but since you're joined late, why don't we go ahead and go to you? What did you think of Green Lantern Earth One?
Honestly, I actually loved it. But I got into Green Lantern quite late, maybe last year or the year before. I was into comics before that, but I got into Green Lantern really late. But now I love Green Lantern. And reading this was quite different to all of the other Green Lantern books, which are quite cosmic, and they deal with all of these big DC Universe concepts. But this one, I actually did feel like it was a very grounded movie. This seemed like a sci-fi movie, like I guess Interstellar or well, yeah, Interstellar is the first thing that. Oh, and The Martian, I guess maybe a little bit. That's more like a survival story. But this one, what I loved about it was how grounded it made the Green Lantern stuff feel. So it didn't feel like a superhero thing at all. It just felt like space exploration. This guy who longs to go back to the stars, and then he's dealing with aliens and learning about different ancient alien like races and technology. And then there was like some dark past that was coming back into it. So I guess it did seem like a bit of like fantasy and sci-fi at the same time. So this kind of sounds like I'm all over the place, but yeah. So it's kind of like a grounded sci-fi story, I guess, from Hal Jordan's perspective and how he interacts with all of the sci-fi stuff. But I guess at the same time, it does kind of feel like a classical fantasy where he discovers this this power, and there's a whole bunch of like, I don't know, mystical gobbledygook in the background. Oh, and he actually does meet some sort of like wizard, right? He was a Green Lantern and he had a ring in a box, but he didn't want to. Oh, well, he's not a wizard, but I mean, to me, he seems like a wizard.
A wise old mentor, sort of.
Yeah, so you got kind of like the hero's journey thing, but done with sci-fi. Yeah, so you got like a space opera, just like Star Wars. I think it's interesting how much we're comparing it to other things, because I think Robert Emmett was the first one to mention it. I definitely got an alien feel here. With just the very
the grunginess.
Yeah, the grunginess, like the like capitalist future kind of thing.
Oh man, I want a Xenomorph Green Lantern now.
Actually,
they Xenomorph Astro Corps member, right?
Yep.
Okay, that works. That's cool.
Dari mentioned The Martian. Just full disclosure, The Martian's my favorite film, and like when I was reading this again today, I was definitely just thinking, if you're ever just going to straight adapt this, I'm pretty sure you can just get Matt Damon to stick on his old Martian outfit, and just get Matt Damon to do Green Lantern and stuff. I think he would fall if you were trying to adapt something like this, since it's so, since it's more of a like Hal Jordan in this is portrayed more as a bit more scientific than he usually is, because he's talking about the inverse pi law thingy. I don't know what the quote is, so I'm sorry to anyone who does. Yeah. But he's got the things.
Also, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, it's grand. I was done.
I was just gonna say, I actually thought it was a really smart choice to have Abin Sur be dead by the time Hal found him. I like that Abin doesn't actually pass the ring on to him and tell him to be a Green Lantern. He just finds this dead guy and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And like he just gradually finds it out.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
not.
it wasn't
even
like
him,
his
it's
partner?
the, yeah, it was the other guy. It was the Russian.
Yeah, the other guy.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
not
he-
as big a Green Lantern expert as everyone else.
Volkov.
Oh
No, we're
it-
just talking in the story. It's the other guy
Yeah.
that gets
in
the
the
ring.
story
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
it's his partner that's with him who actually takes the like, because Hal Jordan leaves. Hal Jordan doesn't take the battery or anything with him. It's his Russian partner who needs his bonus. He takes
Right.
the
Oh, right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
and the Russian guy uses it, blows up their ship, and then Hal Jordan just gets it by accident.
Yeah.
That's
I
actually
guess. Yeah.
take away the whole you are the chosen one aspect of it. I know it's not really a chosen one. It's kind of a chosen. You know what I
Well,
mean?
the
They
word-
can't-
I'd say Green Lantern's definitely a chosen one kind of aspect. And
I
so,
guess.
yeah,
but it's not arbitrary chosen one, which is what I kind of like about it. But it takes away. It takes away what makes the Green Lantern special. Is like, you didn't get this for no reason. You didn't earn it. You just stumbled on it, and now you have to go ahead and
Mhm.
Yeah.
roll with it.
It's kind of the whole
Definitely,
thing
like,
with
Sorry.
that's kind of the core with a lot of this novel is, you get that with the nuclear power and the space stations and whatnot, just power that's out there, and people are going to have their hands on it one way or another. And the Guardians, or yes, what's his name, the Guardian who we see in this.
I was saying
I don't think he was. What?
It's,
I
it's,
don't think
either-
it would be Ganthet.
it's
I
normally
don't think it would be
Ganthet.
Ganthet.
It's normally Ganthet whenever he's talking to anyone, but given the way he talks about this, I'm willing to bet it's Krona.
That's what I was thinking, that it was
Yeah.
Corona. But what I was saying
Yeah.
was, you kind of get that the core theme of this book is just power, and no one can fully, regulate who wields it. And the optimism of this is, if you give it to people, there are still going to be those who use it responsibly or do the right thing. And if they work together, they can at least accomplish something.
Mhm.
And so you get that with that's the really cool decision of having the ring not have the worthiness aspect, which is something I never really would have thought of doing.
I thought it was
I
a
don't-
pretty neat twist.
I just realized, that they didn't have the whole "you have been chosen" part of the story.
Yeah.
I only just realized that now when you said that.
Yeah.
So that does change it up quite a lot.
Yeah, I like that it's not like I like that there's no one there to be like, how this is what this is and this is what you have to do. I like that he has to figure it out by himself.
That's probably
Yeah,
my
like they don't
favorite
even
part
know
is-
constructs are a thing until they meet Arista.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's
they're
that's
just
one of my
gonna
favorite
fly
parts.
and shoot lasers.
Yeah,
like
they
that.
they use it for like a couple like straps and stuff, but yeah, they really don't know how to figure it out that much. And that's probably one of my favorite scenes in this is when Kilowog and Hal are first meeting, and Kilowog goes like, "Teach me how to be a Green Lantern," and Hal's like, "No, bro, I need you to teach me. Like we have
Yeah.
no idea what we're doing." And then by the end of this, they're reforming the Corps. That's really really cool to me.
I also thought it was really cool. Oh, sorry.
Just, you brought up Kilowog. One thing that I think is amazing about this artist is he's able to make
It's a woman, I think.
he's able to make like a completely
Correct.
alien face like Kilowog's, like something so far removed from what we would look at. He's able to make such amazing subtle expressions with Kilowog's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's
My-
Corinna Becco. Or
My favorites when
No,
they find
the writer's Karina Becco, the artist is Gabriel Hart.
Oh, yeah, written by both of them. Oh, yeah.
I'm so used to it being in order like that on the covers.
Right,
Oh, it's 'cause he
right.
did both. He did all.
But they co-wrote it.
Yeah,
Didn't they co-write it, though?
Yeah, they co-wrote it. So my guess would be he helped plot it. That's usually what the second person in the writing thing gets, is they helped plot it, or they were a part of developing the plot, and then
We
the
don't really do plotter credits anymore that often.
yeah.
The
it's-
last I remember was Chris Sammy had plotting credits at the tail end of Wade's Daredevil, but that's all I can remember recently.
But yeah, to speak to your point, yeah, he does get across some really good facial expressions with Kilowog and the
Yeah.
artwork.
Mhm.
And I also like
My-
that he's able to make members of the same alien species look distinct from each other. Like,
Yes,
you don't
yes,
have that
that's
Star Wars
very
thing
true.
where all the Rhodians look like Greedo and stuff. Like, all
Yeah.
the like whatever Kilowog species is, they actually look different from each other.
I like how my favorite expression from Kilowog
Except for the
is
Manhunters, but they're supposed to look the same.
Unless there's not species, I guess.
my favorite is my favorite's like when Kilowog, like there are some artists out there that can't even draw humans looking differently. Like, but my favorite expression of Kilowog's is actually just after they found out what really happened to the Green Lanterns, allegedly with the Guardians making the Manhunters, and they're flying through space, and Kilowog just has this heartbroken look on his face. Like that's just beautiful. And it's like
darkness, my old friend.
earlier in the thing, he's talking about how he has, like, I've only heard stories and legends, and you kind of buy it. Like it's kind of like the Rey thing from Last Jedi. It was like this person was brought up on these legends and myths, and they've kind of constructed, like, if you look at Kilowog's outfit, he's got a homemade Green Lantern outfit. Like his Green Lantern symbol is like there's stitching on the Green Lantern symbol on it. Like this is a Green Lantern fanboy, much like Rey is a Luke Skywalker fanboy, who then find out the reality and they're like, oh,
yeah, it's like
don't know if this stitched it. Like I had my nan make this for me.
I think I think disillusionment is a recurring theme in this book. Like you also have that with Hal, where like he worked with NASA for years, but then they did something really bad, and he feels guilty because he didn't do anything about it. He just kind of turned the other way while it happened.
He helped build. He helped build the orbital spaceship. That's what his project was. He was part of the space construction team for it. Because when they visit like a water planet, it flashes back to him in a submersible chamber, doing the building drills, and like very good use of flashback in there. Like it's all done in 2 pages.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really quick, and it's very minimal dialogue for it, and it's just really simple. And it's cutting back and forth. That's all you need. You don't need to have a big thing about it. And we had like hints and bits and pieces earlier before, but there you go. We don't have to interrupt with. We don't have to interrupt it with like an entire issue of the backstory of every little bit. No, just here's the cliff notes. You can infer enough from dialogue in the present, and
that's
there you
one
go.
thing I'm always so impressed by. Even with the Earth 1 books I don't love, like they're so tight. They're so short, you know?
They kind of have to be.
That's the
Which,
strength.
I mean, I just wish that they came out more regularly.
One every year at least would be fine.
Yeah, really, as opposed to every
Like
2
one a
3.
year.
Yeah.
Like that's perfect.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right though. I do like how much of this is kind of revealed very piecemeal. And then I like how fast and how crazy things get. Like Hal and Kilowog kind of out on the edge of the universe searching for a purpose. It's right out of Green Lantern the animated series. I love it. But like then when they get separated, shit just starts going wrong for Hal so fast, and that's really cool. I'll say it's a little convenient, but I don't care because I like it. It's really, really cool. That, and I love the idea that the Manhunters are freaking like ruling the galaxy. That's cool as shit.
Yeah,
I really,
and I
really
like that
Like
it's
the
not.
Empire.
I like that it's not the universe, because Green Lantern, it's like the universe, like the whole universe and stuff like that, and it does make it feel a little. That's one thing I never got is how are you going to. So you've divided the universe up into 3,600 sectors. You've got 3,600 people, each policing a sector. That's still like Green Lantern at one point references like, oh, my sector is literally
17 galaxies or something like that.
Yes, and I'm just like, that's you're a little spread thin there. I was like, oh well, guess what? We're having a recruitment drive now. It's 7,200. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. making it smaller makes it gives it a lot more sense to it, I think. And
I can see it. They're really inconsistent with it sometimes. They are
Yeah.
super inconsistent with it in the comics because sometimes it is just the galaxy, and then sometimes it's the entire universe. It depends on the
But
writer and how well they know their space terminology,
Yeah.
I think.
but if it's just the galaxy, like, and if we did this in mainstream DC, if we just made it the galaxy, like that opens up, like, there's two solutions to this: make more Green Lanterns, or shrink it. And if you shrink it, that like opens up the possibility of, well, external galaxy threats and stuff like that.
They could destroy half of it, and then there would be less.
We could destroy half the galaxy. That's just amazing. And then half the universe. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, there's a lot with this though that I really like. For me, I think my favorite scene is when he and the other slave laborer are waiting for the acid rain to die down so they can make their run to the power battery, and she's just so fucking bitter, and I love it because it's just this. It's being affected. It's being confronted with such negativity, such just like pessimism. That she has this great line. Then how about some truth? I don't care about them, and neither do you. Why should you? When we leave this place, we'll never come back. Let them find their own way out, if they can. You know I'm right. Oh God, I love that scene so much because it's at that moment where like he kind of he accepts defeat. He accepts that she is right. That there's nothing that's gone right for him this entire time, and so there's nothing he's ever going to be able to do. And then after he gets the ring back and everything, he gets that hope again and is confronted with a way to save the day. And I really like that.
Yeah.
Also, I really liked just the scale of this story. Like, we don't go to like a ton of different planets. Like, we only go to like 3 or 4. But you really feel the sense that this is like a whole galaxy, and like this is a galaxy-wide conflict that's affecting everybody. And the exposition you do get is it isn't a ton, but it's like just enough. Like, you just get the basic, like, the Green Lanterns are the peacekeepers of the galaxy. Again, going back to Star Wars, the Jedi were the peacekeepers of their galaxy. And I know the Green Lanterns have been described as peacekeepers before, but I can't help but notice those parallels here. And right down to them recruiting more Green Lanterns and trying to expand the size of the Corps, just like they were trying to like increase the size of the Jedi Order in the old EU. And like, I just love how big this feels, but at the same time, it's also very personal.
Yeah.
Could I ask a follow-up question to that? With Hal returning to Earth right at the end, how do you think the sequel will play out then? Because it seems like he wants to not reshape the Earth, but it seems like he wants to help get the Earth back on track. But obviously, Ganthet or Bruno or whoever is gonna unleash his Sinestro Corps or whatever they're gonna be called. So do you think Earth is gonna somehow join in like a big fight out in the universe, or like
Oh, sorry. Continue.
well, I was just gonna say, like, do you think Hal is gonna be like conflicted between leaving Earth and joining a big giant space hopping adventure again, or will the Earthlings come with him, or will the battle come to Earth? Like, which would you prefer, or what do you think would happen?
I think the battery is still on Oa. So I think they were talking about how.
No, I said battle, like the fight. They're like, do you think they're gonna leave Earth to go on fights if the Sinestro Corps start attacking people, or do you think
What could be potentially really good, and what I would kind of want to do with this if I was writing it, I would like to see, just sort of going into sort of Star Trek territory here. I would like to see sort of maybe every lantern acting as like an ambassador representative of their planet and sort of creating this sort of, for lack of a better word, sort of an alliance federation, and just sort of like the lanterns go to their respective planets and like, hey, evil robots are taking over the galaxy.
They have taken over the galaxy.
They have taken over the galaxy. It's just we're in the space boonies here. We don't know yet. They're not reached it yet. They're coming. So if they had like if they basically start marshaling their planets and sort of uniting, and then you wind up getting this sort of united federation of planets under the Green Lanterns, and the Green Lantern acts as kind of like an emissary or whatever.
Yeah, that's really cool.
See that?
Yeah.
Also, speaking of the
Or
Sinestro
Hal could just go
Corps,
full.
yeah. Also, speaking of the Sinestro Corps, we do see Sinestro at the end of this.
Yeah.
I loved Sinestro's cameo. When all the other Green Lanterns that like are named Green Lanterns start showing up, I was like, oh, that's so cool. And yeah, Sinestro's cameo was freaking excellent because it's exactly how Sinestro thinks.
Yeah, let's
He
kill
gets
all
like
these
one page.
people.
He gets
That's
like one
exactly what we
page.
do.
Yeah.
He gets like one page, and he is pitch perfect Sinestro.
Mhm.
Like you can see this guy joining the to lead the Yellow Lanterns in the next one, or
Like
whatever.
a small price in the face of our homes, our families, our freedom from the manhunters, from the death dealing.
Yep. I really like that. It's just so cool the way it all works out. As far as like what the sequel, if we get it, is going to be, man, I don't know. Like they set up two very different things in this because you got, I'm going to call him Krona. You got Krona starting his own corps. You've got the Manhunters still are out there, and so they need to be like. Can we all agree that releasing the power battery is just blowing up the Death Star in New Hope?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's so like it's not like the Empire's gone. So you still have like the Manhunter Strike Back potential. You've got the Yellow Lanterns out there on the horizon, and then you've got the Corps still trying to rebuild itself properly, and Hal going to Earth to deal with a tyrannical ruler. Like, that's a lot of balls in the air. I don't know where they're going to go or how they're going to tie it all together in, like, one volume, or if they're going to, like, save maybe the Yellow Lantern stuff till the end of the second volume. Like, oh, yay, we finally solved all our problems. And then, like, that's when the Yellow Lanterns attack.
I think what might happen is, like, one or two Yellow Lantern agents go to Earth to chase after Hal, and that's at least the first act of the second one.
It could open like Empire Strikes Back and just have the Manhunters launch a huge attack on Oa or something.
Mm-hmm.
And like they
I
have
don't
to
think we're
leave.
gonna open Earth, probably. Though one thing I really, really want with the next volume is an attack on Earth, because it would be really interesting to see Hal have to use Arrowhead.
Yes.
And put him in that situation.
I can see why that would be cool, but for me, I don't like that so many Green Lantern stories always have to tie back to Earth. I like them to be galactic, and so that's just the only reason I wouldn't want that as a personal thing.
But Ian, Earth's a.
I'm sorry, Stu, you're cutting out really bad.
I said Earth is a busy planet.
It is a very busy planet. You're totally right on that one.
I think Linkar is right that on the other side of the moon, there's just a giant sign that says vacancy.
One thing I've never...
Sorry.
One thing I don't know about Green Lantern, when they make a construct, like, say they make a construct... So Hal Jordan, he often makes very simple things. He makes hammers, boxing gloves,
racetrack,
baseball bat.
But he's a pilot, so yeah. I've always wondered, do like they need to know the inner workings of how it would work? So if I use my, so if I don't know how to put together a handgun. I don't know the inner workings of a handgun. But if I was to use my Green Lantern to make a handgun, would I need to like construct a firing pin or a thing or whatever? And I don't know
No.
the words.
I don't think so. Because I remember there was like something in I don't think so, because I remember in like Rebirth, didn't they say like between Jon Stewart and like Kyle Rayner that they were architects, but like it was just different.
But it's just
I think it helps if they do know the
because-
inner workings.
yeah.
But they don't have
Makes
to.
it stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it stronger if you know how it works, but you don't necessarily
Okay.
need to know how something works to be able to
I-
use it. You just need to have an
like-
idea of
yeah.
it.
I only
Like, I
bring it up
think,
because whenever, like, I think it's in Sinestro Corps War, you see like this awesome panel of Jon Stewart making a sniper rifle for himself, and like it assembles piece by piece.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
like I always
yeah.
just, and I knew he had military training, so I was just wondering if you need to have knowledge of that. If that's the case, like, wouldn't it be cool if the sequel opened with Arrowhead getting destroyed and Hal like builds a construct Arrowhead replacement?
That's what I was gonna say. Also, like maybe he does that on Oa or whatever. Because, well, do you think we're gonna get the yellow impurity? Because I don't think that's
No,
actually
no.
set up
No.
at all.
I don't.
I
think
don't-
so.
I don't think so. Given that the, I mean,
That's too.
it doesn't seem
DC
to have been
universe,
seeded in there.
There's cosmic entities, there's all of that stuff. I don't think any of that will come into it.
So I guess
If they-
conversely, are they gonna have? Because is there anything in here?
I would actually
forgetting
directly say I don't think we're going to get the yellow impurity, and it's because of one of my other scenes that I really, really like, and it's while Hal is talking to, again, I'm calling him Krona. I don't know if it is Krona.
He's
but,
totally
like,
Krona.
Yeah, but like he goes, Hal says, "Are we inside the battery?" What? Of course not. How would that even like? Wait, no.
They could do the weakness to yellow in a way where it's like, if it's to do with the light spectrum and stuff like that, not the emotional spectrum, but I mean the actual light spectrum, since green is a color that is attained by mixing yellow and blue, maybe yellow light, not everything yellow, but just yellow light itself, like disperses green or whatever.
I don't know.
I guess more what I was getting
They
at
might-
was, do you guys think that we're going to be getting the, green is powered by willpower?
I think that's
Yellow.
definitely the
I
groundwork
think so.
for green is powered by will is
Yellow
in
was
here.
fear.
Again,
Because like it's right at the very beginning, where like Hal is working on fighting the damaged Manhunter, and he just keeps like he's got such a look on his face, and he's just really trying his hardest to will himself to beat it, just trying to figure it out, and there's so much work put in there. And then there's similar scenes like when he's with Kilowog and he loses concentration and he's not putting enough of himself into it. I think there's a pretty good argument that will is the thing feeding the ring here. It's just not directly addressed because so much of the knowledge of the core has been lost to history.
We mentioned Linkara in regards to the moon thing. I kind of agree with Linkara in the sense that the green energy in the emotional spectrum being will never really made much sense to me because will isn't so much an emotion really.
I think emotion's always been the wrong word for the spectrum, but that's a completely
Yeah.
different discussion. Because I mean,
so like,
life and death are not emotions either.
yeah,
Or are they?
but like,
Oh man, I'm just not feeling well. Oh, what's wrong?
Never
I'm
been-
feeling kind of dead. You know.
clearly you've never had a goth phase.
I know we don't do clips for these, but if this was a normal geeky gentleman, that would be the clip.
There you go.
But I think courage, like Linkara said, I think courage is more of a, since so much of the Green Lantern is tied into courage, and like courage is something that requires will, so you can still have it in that respect. There's like a symbiotic emotional relationship there, or whatever. But
this is a completely
it's
different discussion.
nitpicks.
But to put the quick thing on it, Johns always gets a lot of the credit for the willpower thing. He is just the first one that made that a really big deal. That had been established well before him. And so then he needed to, in order to create the emotional spectrum for the other cores, he needed to think of other things that could be conceivably used to power an object like the Green Lantern ring. And so fear made a lot of sense. So you needed like these universal types of states. Let's put it that way. Because while will is not an emotional state like love, being willful is still a state of mind. And so I've always thought emotional spectrum was just the worst possible word for it. And my headcanon is it's because it's not the actual word. It's just the English language is really bad and doesn't have a word for it. And so the ring just translated it as best it could for Hal and our own benefit.
Or you could make the argument that the ring also mistranslated whatever the actual emotion is to will, because it's the only thing but it is something more to that. I get it. I think there's something like it in this where the ring does mistranslate because it's the closest that I think it's like they're talking about a name of a planet.
Yeah.
It's
Penelops.
Penelops, yeah.
Yeah, and its lantern had a similar name, and then Kilowog's like, I think the ring has trouble translating. By the way, come to certain parts of Northern Ireland, and I swear to God, you will have difficulty, Green Lantern ring or not, you will have difficulty understanding some people.
Penelops. What? Penelops was the Green Lantern.
Well, there, me boyo. How you doing there? What's about you?
I understood that perfectly.
This is his world.
I can't do
Penelo.
I can't do my own accent. It's weird. I can't do my own people's accent.
Green Lantern's rings use Google Translate, apparently.
Yeah.
No, because then they wouldn't be able to communicate whatsoever.
True.
Apple, zebra, salad.
No, you see, if it was using Google Translate, it would just send you a bunch of ads to, like, vote for Trump.
Oh, I really like the fact that
you'd be trying to use a construct, and all of a sudden your ring would get hacked by Facebook, and there would be an article about Hillary Clinton's emails. I was like, "Trying to fight! What the hell?"
Oh, that might be an effective weapon.
Just get the manhunters to like read all the archive like information out on the internet, and then they'll just commit suicide.
Jesus.
Did anyone else really like the fact
they're
that
robots? It doesn't count.
Did anyone else really like the fact that we got the rings failing and them not being able to understand each other? Because immediately I thought of that fantastic episode of the animated series where they can't communicate. And Ian's happy right now that I brought that up.
I'm gonna have to start watching Green Lantern.
Green Lantern the animated series is hands down the best DC animated show. Period. Fight me.
Brave and the Bold, I will put slightly up.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're so wrong. It's the best thing ever, and it was lost before its time. And
Ian, I'm going to counter you right now. CW Seed, Vixen. There you go. I'm sorry, I can't even say that with a straight face.
Anyway, Terry, were you about to say something, Tari?
I was just saying I didn't like the art style of the Green Lantern series, if I'm being honest. So I only watched a few episodes. But I hear good things, so I might go back and watch.
The animation's an acquired taste.
Yeah. I'm getting more into... I was really anti-CG animated series for a long time. I'm watching, so I've just come around to that style so much since I watched like Clone Wars and Transformers Prime and the latter half of Rebels, which are all kind of my favorite things. So I'm going to give animated series a watch at some point.
It's really good. Yeah, but you're right, Red. That's so right out of that episode where, like just in the middle of a sentence, that's a really fun comic booky thing too. The way that they do it, just
Yeah.
the letters start just not making sense, and then
Yeah.
as you just got like pages, and this reads really fast even for an Earth One book because you've got a pretty significant number of pages where there's just nothing to read. It's just all visual storytelling, which is really really cool.
Whenever I see stuff that's alien language and it's not like it's not recognizable, I do like to just sort of look at the symbols and just kind of wonder what it means.
Mm-hmm. And that's
Like,
the other
just
thing I
try to
really
infer
like from
from-
like the lettering perspective.
Yeah.
All the aliens are speaking different languages because the symbols are different.
Yeah,
It's really
like so
clever.
you could probably if you were some sort of code breaker, you could probably work this out because you got two symbols that are used the same here, and then they're used again here, and then you could probably, a smarter person than me could probably work this out eventually, but
Mhm.
I want to know if there was an actual because I know James Gunn, whenever he's writing Groot dialogue, he does just write what Groot is saying in the scripts, and I'm wondering if in the scripts for this there's actual there's definitely got to be actual lines for what's being said.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Speaking of art style, I also kind of liked how, even though like the tone, like the color of the book is always so dark, the Green Lantern light is like the brightest thing in the whole thing.
Oh,
I think that's really
Yes.
cool.
And I think that's really intentional. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's intended because, like
And
you
that
were
was-
saying,
Yeah.
it is a very grungy book, and I think the whole the lived-in sci-fi grungy dirty thing, and I think making I don't think it's so much as it's colored specifically bright, so much as everything around it is just so dark. But yeah,
Like, it's the
it creates a
first,
good contrast.
massively colored scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm on that
Yeah.
page. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
One thing I
favorite
really
place
like
is-
about the way the Green Lantern energy is drawn is Hal's is so raw and unfocused, and that's really
Yes.
cool. So you get a great sense of like him being very, very new. But then when you get to Kilowog, his is a lot cleaner, and then
It's like it's like a more of an aura kind of thing.
and then Arisha has the cleanest. Like when you look at her just beams to create the construct, it's a perfect stable line. And then this stuff right here is just like the aura of the light escaping into the air. It's
Yeah.
really cool the way that all works together in that sense. Like everything she's doing is so refined, whereas Hal's just like bursting energy because he doesn't know what he's doing with it yet. And even by the end, it's like cleaner. He's more focused, but it's still really really raw for him. And I really
That's
think
something
that's
I
cool.
like about. That's something I like about who does the art for the early John Ethan Van
Sciver.
Yeah.
Ethan Van
That's
Sciver.
fun, dude.
Yeah, like personal feelings on the man aside and stuff for given some, but like the man just draws really sort of like good art with the way John Stewart, all his stuff is very architectural. It's all right angles and stuff like that and squares, and whereas Kyle is more artistic looking. And then Hal and Guy are just kind of like just all over the place with their energy pattern. Like Hal's maybe a little bit more refined than Guy. That's something I've always liked, that like the ring, the energy mimics the personality of the wielder.
Yeah, I mean when. Oh, sorry.
No, I was done.
I was just saying, like you brought up Ethan Van Sciver, and I mean the way Ethan Van Sciver describes the Green Lantern ring when he draws it, he always describes it with very detail of how the Green Lantern should always feel like they take up a room. And you look at, and Red brought up the scene with the lantern battery. I'm thinking of that scene with the dead Avensur and the disabled Manhunter. And you'll notice when you see the lantern battery, it's the brightest thing in the room, and it takes up. And every time when you see the Green Lantern ring or the Green Lantern battery, it's the thing that your eye pays attention to the most. At least for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's the thing that draws you to it the most out of everything. Steven Sejic, he's going to be doing the art for Justice League Odyssey, and he was making a joke, but it's a really good point about how easy Green Lanterns are to draw because they come with their own outline. And I think that's really funny and kind of, it's on point because, yeah, it's a character that gets to have its own outline. You don't have to try to hide or shade it away or blend it in. It's supposed to stand out, and that's really cool.
Also, just to speak to the art again for a second, I love that there are so many places where even if you took the dialogue out, I think the art alone is enough to convey to you what's going on. Like, there's this full-page spread where Kilowog is giving like the history of the Green Lanterns and stuff, and you see like the Green Lanterns in power over here. Then you see them lying dead next to the power battery, and then you see the Manhunters. And like, even if you took all this dialogue out, I think you could still tell the basics of what was going on in that page, even without any of the exposition.
I think that's what ties in with Gabriel Hardman having co-written this as well. Co-written, wonderful English. Co-written this. That so much of it, because he was involved in the writing process, I feel like it's very intentional that it's as visually story driven as it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really, really like a lot about this. It's an absolutely beautiful book. I will say Gabriel Hardman's art style is not at all what I would think of for Green Lantern. It is incredibly distinct. Again, very grungy, but it totally fits the tone of this book perfectly. And it also makes me wonder if he's going to adjust his style for book 2 and hopefully 3. I feel like this is set up as a trilogy, but we'll see. Like, is it going to get cleaner? Is it going to get more elegant and a more civilized weapon for a more elegant age, or whatever it was? I fucked that up, but anyway.
Most of the reviews I've seen. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I've just got a very small funny thing, but go ahead.
Just saying, like, most of the reviews I've seen for this, most people have been very positive on the art. But I think it's a good point that you brought up that he might tweak it, because you look at Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, they all have very polished art. Like, Wonder Woman looks like a painting, and Superman just looks like, it's drawn by Shane Davis, and it looks amazing. So he might tweak it for that.
I don't think they're supposed to be a consistency, though. I think each of the books are meant to be completely unique. So I'm not sure if that will come into it too personally. I'm so scratching my head on Earth 1 because I'd assumed, and I guess shame on me, I'd assumed that they were all supposed to be taking place on the same Earth. No, they are, but the books are still like separate. They're not overzealous about crossing over anytime soon. But they are supposed to be on the same Earth, in theory. But that doesn't make sense with this book, because this book makes it seem like they're in the future. But in Superman Earth 1, it's present day. So that doesn't make sense. But according to Grant Morrison, at least, they're all on the same Earth.
Yeah, according to Multiversity, they're on the same Earth. And so I'm like, well, I guess we're just never going to get that Justice League Earth 1 book, which just seems like great marketing, folks.
I mean,
maybe we'll...
No, you go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say, maybe...
I was just going to say, I think Justice League Earth 1 with these grounded, realistic versions would be really, really great. That's all I was going to say.
Same. I was going to say the same thing.
I mean, it would be great, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. I mean, I was shocked that it took like a whole extra year for Batman Earth 2 to come out than it was supposed to take, or Earth 1 Volume 2 to come out than it was supposed to take. And then, like, Wonder Woman was the book that came out with BVS. I'm like, why wouldn't you do the smart thing and have a Batman Superman Earth 1 book come out when BVS came out. Like, God, they didn't think
And
these
those are
things
the only
through.
two that we
Wasn't-
have.
Earth
What
One.
they play.
Wasn't Wonder
King-
Woman like ridiculously? Wasn't Wonder Woman like ridiculously late? Wasn't
Very.
it meant to be
Yeah.
2014?
Yeah, because Morrison rewrote the whole thing.
Yeah, because I
Oh, really?
remember hearing him at the time on a Kevin Smith podcast saying it was coming out next year. I think that was like 2013 or so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe he did write it to be kind of grounded, and then he changed it into what it became.
Yeah.
I would have preferred something more grounded, if I'm honest, because it doesn't really match the other books too much.
It doesn't. Like Wonder
Agreed.
Woman, you have to do backflips to get her there. Green Lantern, you have to have him time travel now. That's just all it comes down to. Like there's no other way to introduce him if you ever do want to cross these over in the Earth One line. And I don't know, like I'm fine. I'm glad, especially if we're only getting one book every 2 years. I'm glad that they're telling the stories they want to tell, that they're getting a complete story out there and not worrying about these things. But at the same time, as someone who's enjoying it, I would sure enjoy to see these characters together.
Like it's kind of upsetting that the writers for this could literally just hand in their scripts to the writers of these could hand their scripts over to the film department, and the film department could probably make a movie of these quicker than the books are coming out.
Well, to be honest, reread Superman Earth 1 Volume 1 and then rewatch Man of Steel
Yeah.
and tell me that they're not the same thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Except
hilarious.
one is better.
Similarities.
I wanted to bring up the sort of the cliffhanger of the Guardian and the Sinestro Corps War, and when you realize that this is kind of the same ending as the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It was
good.
the ending of the Green Lantern movie done in a context that makes sense.
I don't know.
Imagine that.
Speaking
I-
of the
what
Green
the,
Lantern movie, do you think it's possible we'll get parallax in these books?
I doubt it.
No.
I don't
I
think
don't know,
so.
not unless Kronos there trips inside and falls inside that power battery. I just have like a wee thing as well. This is a bit of a nitpick. I literally only find this out when I turn to that page. But when Hal heads back to Earth, he goes back and he finds the body of his friend who died, and he buries it on the asteroid. He's got the helmet and everything. It's a wee marker, and that's really lovely. But then you stop and think, motherfucker, why didn't you just take him to Earth? That was your next stop.
I
Take his
mean,
body to Earth.
It looked more dramatic that way.
It was more
maybe it's
dramatic that
like
way,
a-
but God, he's probably got a family. At the very least, a
Yeah.
cat.
He'd have to answer so many questions, though. Like how he got the body
He's meant
from
to-
space.
He's going to have to answer what he's been doing, because last anyone saw him, he flew off into the vacuum of space. He's already got questions to answer.
Well,
Yeah.
he does introduce himself back to his friend at the end, and it looks like he's going to be helping out Earth too, if that final page is to be interpreted that way.
you need Earth. Okay. This is the problem with comic books. You say Earth 2, and I'm like, wait, when did Earth 2 come in? Oh. So frustrating.
He got the next book needs to open with like Hal giving a press conference as to how he survived, and then he just needs to respond with "I scienced the shit out of things."
Oh, I just caught this reference to the fear thing.
Yeah.
Jask.
The future without fear. So yeah, they are starting to plan towards that. Maybe he'll be the Sinestro Corps leader. What are we gonna call them without the Sinestro, them being run by
Hopefully,
Sinestro?
literally anything else, because Sinestro, like ever since the Sinestro Corps was founded, Sinestro's been the leader of it for like roughly a third of the time. So it
Yeah.
should be called something else that is not tied to the name of whoever.
The Yellow
leads it.
Lantern Corps.
I
I
can't
mean,
remember.
The Fear Corps.
I can't remember what it's called now, but I do know that like his daughter is leading it, or I don't know. I'm really behind on current Green Lantern.
And then
but I
the
think,
Anti-Monitor led it at one point.
like his daughter is currently leading it, and they've teamed up with the Green Lanterns because both there's like a splinter group. So there's one group that's doing all evil stuff, and there's a splinter group of actual decent people who got the yellow rings and want to basically be Green Lanterns, but
Yeah,
don't be Green Lanterns, if you know what I mean.
yeah, because it was the whole time with
It's
Green
an
Lantern
interesting
and the
concept
thing.
because, like, one of the yellow rings tried to come to Batman, so like obviously there's going to be decent people who get yellow rings who have the ability to instill fear, but are fundamentally decent people and want to help people. Just they're
Yeah.
kind of scary when they do it.
Yeah. Well, guys,
You know.
I think we're about done talking about this, though. I think everyone's gotten their thoughts out. So that will do it for this episode of the Comic Book Club. I want to thank everyone that showed up. I want to thank everyone that tried to show up. I feel bad for Jake Carlson. He was excited to be here. I think he even took the day off work. So sorry,
He was the
Jake.
dissenting opinion.
Oh my. Sorry, Jake. Sorry, anyone else that couldn't make it. Hopefully, we'll have more people here next time. There'll be a voting video up next Saturday, I believe, is when I'll be posting it. Yep, and then yeah, so there'll be a voting video next Saturday for the next episode of Comic Book Club. Until then, bye.